Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Ellis. I'm the publisher of Rural Lifestyle Dealer Magazine. Welcome to another webinar with Bob Clements from Rural Lifestyle Dealer. Today's event is being brought to you courtesy of Yanmar. Now, this morning, Bob's going to share specific, simple ideas and tips that you and your team can use to evaluate, adjust, and tune up your department processes and your team's skills to help make 2017 one of your best seasons ever. Before we turn everything over to Bob, there are a few housekeeping items. On your screen, you'll notice a white arrow within an orange box. You can click on the arrow and choose question to open up a question field, and that's going to allow you to submit questions at any point during the presentation. Time permitting, we're going to look to answer as many of those as we can following Bob's presentation. If we don't get to all of them, we're going to send those remaining ones home with Bob so he can answer them. And once we get those replies back from Bob, we'll put the answers up on the website along with the archived replay of this webinar so you can go back and review it as you like. Also, Bob's going to supply us with a worksheet that goes along with the presentation, and we'll get that out to you after the event. If for any reason your internet connection or ours should happen to fail, and it looks like the webinar has been interrupted, just go back to the email you received earlier telling you how to join the webinar, and you can re-enter it that way. With that, we are ready to get things rolling. We're going to turn everything over to Bob here, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Great, thanks, Michael, and I appreciate everybody being on this morning. This is, as Michael and I were talking earlier, it's kind of a cold day in Kansas City, so hopefully it's a little warmer where you're at. And if not, there are airplanes that will take you to places that are warmer. That's the beautiful thing about the country. So this is kind of a fun time of year for us in our business. We have lots of dealers that we work with, and as we kind of roll out of 2016 and as we get ready to kind of position ourselves from 2017, one of the conversations that we're having with all the dealerships we consult with is let's go back and take a look at what happened in 2016. Well, I know it's not slow for everybody right now because some of you have gotten snow and things like this, and sales are still pretty brisk for some of the dealers that I have out there. There is always that time of year that I feel like that it's important to go back and do a little bit of reflection and look at what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and then what are we going to do to position ourselves in 2017. For the last about a month, I've been traveling literally all over the U.S., and I feel like we're going to have a pretty strong 2017. The election's over now, and regardless of what side you fell on, it's just good to have it over. I think economically, everybody, I look at the stock market. The stock market's still going strong. Building is going strong right now across the country. Finally, I was down in the southern part of the U.S. last week, and I know for all you folks down in Georgia, and North and South Carolina, we've been so dry. You finally got the rains and the fires are out. So anyway, I feel pretty good about 2017, assuming nothing disastrous happens. I think it's going to be a good, strong year for everybody across the board. People feel good about it, and again, when people's attitudes are good, they are willing to start spending money. So this is a perfect time for us to kind of go back and say, okay, well, what happened last year? What went right again? What went wrong? And then what are we going to do to fix those things? I always like to, as I'm working with my dealers, to think about what we do from like professional athletes as an example. You know, when you look at a professional athlete or a team, let's say it's a football team. One of the things that you always notice with football teams, or baseball, I suppose, or soccer, or anything else, is that after the game's over, there's been filming that's taking place during the game. They're capturing everything they possibly can. And when the game's over, as they go into the next week, one of the things they do is they sit down and they review their game film. They are looking at the whole game. They're looking at each person in each position. Partially what they did right, but mostly what they're looking for in the review of the game film is what went wrong. Because that's the difference between amateurs and pros. Amateurs let things happen. Amateurs whine and moan and complain about everything's going wrong and oh poor me and I don't have any control and life is just bad and life is not fair. That's what amateurs do. Pros, instead of letting things happen to them, they make things happen. They're constantly working and tuning and adjusting and tweaking. And it doesn't mean that they don't lose periodically. It doesn't mean that things always go right for them, but they're constantly, when they get hit with something that went wrong, they don't just accept it as, oh, well, that's just the way it is, and poor me, and life's not fair. They go back and say, okay, well, what can I do the next time that I'm presented with that situation to make a change in it, to do something that's going to drastically impact their future? And so that's what I want to do as we go through this webinar today. As Michael said, I'm going to need you to have a piece of paper and a pen to write with. That's basically to do some scaling on. And then when we're done, our office will put together a kind of some tools for you to go through so you can do some self-evaluation. If you're an owner on here, I want you to sit down with your department managers, your sales manager, parts and service manager, and I want you to review in detail what happened last year, and again, and what we're going to do to make that change this next year. So it's that reviewing that we want to take a look at. From an owner's perspective, as you're looking at it, the thing that I ask all the owners that I consult with is there's two things I'm looking for. Number one, is your business producing the kind of revenue that it should be producing? Look, folks, we're in business to make money. That's what the whole thing is. I tell everybody I speak to, there's nothing wrong with making money. Money is not a bad thing. I know I had a person in a seminar I did not too long ago said, well, you know, Bob, money's the root of all evil. And I go, well, actually, you're not the Bible scholar that you might think. It's the love of money that's the problem, not money itself. Money is a magnifier. I tell people, if you're inherently good and your soul is good and you're a caring person, you're a caring person with a little bit of money. When you get more money, you can do more with it. So good people with money do good things with money. If you're inherently evil, then all more money is going to do is give you the ability to be more evil. So money is a magnifier, right? It's not something that changes you. It takes what you are and magnifies either good or bad. So don't be afraid of making good money. And I think that's one of the things that I deal with as I work with dealers is they are so afraid of, well, I don't want to take advantage of the customer. I don't want to do this. And it's not about taking advantage of a customer. What it is about making sure that you're there for the customers. If you don't make the right kind of money, if your business is not producing the revenue it needs to produce, you simply will cease to exist. And that's not going to help a customer at all. So don't be afraid of producing good, strong revenue. And the other thing I always ask my owners is not only is your dealership producing the revenue that you need it to produce, right? But does it give you the freedom that you expect it to provide for you? Are you freed up from the things that you want to be freed up from? And I know a lot of you as owners, you don't feel like you can get away from your business, and so we have to fix that, right? Your business is something that should be a slave to you. You should not be a slave to your business. And so it's so important to understand that as you look at 2016 and you're going like, well, I couldn't get away, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't have that. We want to change those things for 2017. And that's a part of that evaluation to say, what would I need to do as an owner to have this business produce more revenue for me so I can achieve the things that I want to achieve? Keep in mind, owners, you got all the risk, right? So there's nothing wrong with getting rewarded for that. And the second part of it is I want to have the revenue, but I also want to have the freedom that comes with owning a business. And if you're in the business every day and you spend all your time in the business every day and you don't have the freedom to do it while you're making the money, you still don't have the balance that you're looking for there. So I want to balance the freedom I want with the revenue that I generate. So I want you to be thinking about that. And again, if those two things weren't in balance for you in 2016, then you got to work on that. And part of the freedom comes from understanding that you got good people and don't micromanage good people. Find good people, pay good people well, and good people as an owner are what give you the freedom that you're going to want to have in your business to do those other types of things. The other one is, from an employee's perspective, all right, I ask, is the dealership providing them with opportunities to grow both professionally and financially? You know, one of the things that we want to have, and again, I've had my business over 30 years. We're not big. We've got 12 employees. But one of the things and I probably got the best team I've ever had. I mean, I am blessed with phenomenal employees. They're just great team players for me. So my goal always is making sure that I'm helping them grow professionally. You know, my wife and I, we meet with our employees and say, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? What can I help you do to grow in what you're trying to grow for? And the other piece is I want to make sure that they're financially rewarded. My goal in business is not to try to take as much money as I can and give my people as little as I have to give them to keep them there. That was the old way of doing business 20 and 30 years ago. That's not what you're going to do today, right? You've got to make sure that you're trying to grow your people professionally. I want to give them opportunities to grow and expand and know things, and I want to pay them well financially so they don't want to leave me. We all know how stressful it is, especially at season, when you have a good employee that chooses to leave you to go someplace else for a few more dollars. I don't ever want to allow that to happen in my business, and I don't want you to do it either. So take a look from your employee's perspective. And if you haven't done this as an owner, sit down with your key employees and ask them, what can I do to help you grow professionally? What is it that you want to do? Do you want to go to some night classes? Do you want to take some college classes to do other things? I want to help you with that, but I also want to make sure that you stay here. So I'm looking for ways to reward you financially. And it's not just more per hour. If you guys have listened to me speak over the years, you know I'm not about paying people more per hour. I'm about giving people the opportunity to make more money based upon performance. So if you perform at a higher level and you produce more revenue for me, I've got to find a way to help let you share in that so that you have that experience and you want to stay there. So that's a part of what you're looking at. Then the other one is from a customer's perspective. Is your dealership, is your business a place that they enjoy doing business with? If you've heard me speak again, you know, my goal in business is not to have satisfied customers. My goal in business is to have loyal customers, because loyal customers are different than satisfied customers, and that satisfied customers will stay with you as long as they're satisfied. But if somebody else comes along with something that might be a little bit more satisfying, they will leave you and go over there. You don't find that happening with loyal customers. Customers that are loyal will tend to stay with you. So I've got to always be looking at my dealership, at my business, and say, look, is this a place that my customers enjoy doing business with? Do I take care of them? Will they go out and tell other people about me? Will they come back in and spend more money with me? So that's something that we're going to be looking at also as we kind of go through this webinar this morning. So the key thing that I want you to think about in 2016 is saying, okay, we're going to go play back the game in 2016, and we're going to look at what we did right. Those are things we want to continue to do, or maybe tweak to do better. But most importantly, what did we do wrong? Right? What happened in this last season that if I could wave a magic wand and change it and fix it, what would that look like to me? This is the time of year during your off season that you want to take a look at those things. The other thing, again, is position yourself to win. I tell people all the time, you know, you can't be a victim. You know, business will eat you up if you choose just to be a victim, just to let things happen to you. Well, there's certain things we can't control. You guys know, especially in the South and down in Texas, where in Louisiana this year we had all the rains, or in Georgia and North and South Carolina we had all that incredible drought. You can't control the weather. There's no magic potion that we could pour over the skies. At least I don't think there is. There's nothing there that we can actually do to control the weather. So the weather is what it is. But I had people say, well, Bob, it's dry. The weather is dry, whatever. I tell people there's still people out there buying things. We just have to work harder to find them, right? And we really can't control the economy. You know, if the economy's good, things happen better for us. If the economy's bad, things are a little tighter. But it still doesn't mean things are out of our control. We do have the ability through activity, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. Things that we could do to put us in a better position to win, and that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to position yourself in a better position for a win for 2017. And again, understanding that it has so much to do with what you're doing and what your people are doing. One of the things that I always try to get my dealerships to do at this time of year is to evaluate their store. Now, I've got a little picture up there of Las Vegas, and I just want you to think, I don't know, I'm guessing we've got a nice-sized group here today, so I'm guessing at some point some of you have been to Las Vegas or Reno or maybe to a casino that's someplace by you. And I tell people, again, if you think about a casino, if you think about Las Vegas, and I'll use Las Vegas as an example. So if you think about Las Vegas, and you think about a casino, if you've ever been out there before, when you go out there, first of all, you know that there are a lot of casinos in Las Vegas. I mean, literally block after block after block after block. That's all it is out there. It's casinos. There's a casino in the airport at McCarran. The moment you come in, you've got the ability to start gambling. And all the way to downtown, there's casinos everywhere. If you go to the Strip or you go downtown, and even when you're leaving back, you still go back to the airport and there's opportunities to gamble. So if you think about competitiveness, and you think about the competitive nature of casinos, when you're in a place like Las Vegas, everybody is trying to capture you. You may think you have competition in your dealership, but I'm telling you, if you look at Las Vegas, right, there's one casino after another casino after another casino. So the question I always ask my dealers is so what makes people go into one casino or over another casino, right? And that's the thing that Las Vegas, that the casino industry has figured out. They understand what pulls you into their casino. They understand what they need to do, not only to pull you in, but to keep you in. They have a strategy in place from the moment you see their building, whether it's a theme building like a Caesars or one of the other theme places out there, New York. There's a theme. There's something there that pulls you in, that sucks you into there. And as you start coming up to that building, as you start coming up to it, they continue to assault your senses, that your sight and your sound and your smell, everything that makes you want to do something, they're going after. And their goal again is to continue to pull you into that casino. So you're hit outside with tons of lights, and you're hit outside with sounds, and they've got water fountains going, and everything is there is assaulting you in a positive way to try to draw you inside of it. So I want you to think of your store. I mean, think about this. If you went to a casino in Las Vegas and you saw that they had all these beautiful lights up there, but there were some bulbs and stuff that weren't going or showing anymore, that'd give you an impression that that's probably not a casino that's doing well. So they make sure that from a customer's perspective, from a gambler's perspective, that everything looks just perfect. So now they've pulled you into this casino. And again, they did it with sounds and lights and theme, okay? And now you're inside of the casino, right? And as you get inside of the casino, then they even hit you with more sounds and lights and the theme of everything going on around it. Their goal is to continue to pull you in, to drive you inside of there. Because keep in mind, you're going in there not to buy something. You're going in there knowing, I mean, literally knowing that you're probably going to lose money. As the old saying goes, is, you know, Las Vegas wasn't built on winners. So you're walking into this place knowingly, understanding that you're going to give up money most likely as you go through here. You all hope you're going to win, right? And part of what they're trying to do in Las Vegas is to give you hope. When you walk in, you see the lights and you hear the sounds and you hear the sounds of slot machines. You hear this clink, 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 clink. Sounds like money's falling out someplace in somebody's tray, and that creates that excitement there. And I tell people, keep in mind that slot machines today aren't like the old ones. There's not actually coins that fall out anymore. You have a little card that you put in, and your dollars are taken away or added to that card, but they still have those machines making that sound. They need that sound there because that's a part of your sense of getting pulled in and staying pulled in there. So now you're inside, and you get inside there, and they've got the smells and the lights and the sounds, and they've got food in there for you. You've got somebody up walking around all the time wanting to know if they can get you a drink or something like that. Hospitality is at its best inside of a casino because they're trying to do everything they possibly can to keep you in there, because the longer they can keep you in that casino, the longer they can keep you in there, the more money they're going to take out of your pocket. Right? And everybody periodically walks out with a little bit of win, but the reality of it is most people leave their money there, and they want to keep you in that casino. So as I talk to my dealers, it's the same thing. I said, you know, we got to think about this in the context of our store. As somebody pulls up to your store, they pull up to your dealership, right? What are you doing in your dealership that's going to start sucking them into your business, right? And I want you to think about your dealership just for a moment. And if you were driving up and you pulled into your dealership this morning, as you all did, is there anything outside of your dealership that would draw me in to your store? Or does it just look like every other dealership in a line of every other dealership that's out there? And I think that's one of the things that I want you to think about as you go into 2017. What can you do to enhance the outside of your dealership so that if I'm driving by or I'm pulling in, I'm starting to get a feel for who you are. I'm starting to get a feel for what you're trying to do or what you're trying to accomplish, just like Vegas does. It's the lights, it's the sounds, and it's the things like that. So I want you to be thinking about that a little bit. And as I pull into your dealership, as I walk up to your casino, so to speak, what is there outside that draws me on inside of your store? And then once I come inside of your store, what are you doing inside of your store that's going to continue to pull me in and make me stay inside of that store to experience the kind of things I want to experience? So I want you to be thinking about that as you look at your store in 2016, and you look and say, okay, this is what I've got right now. What I want to do is I want to create a different environment. I want to create it so that when people come in, they are physically, mentally, emotionally drawn into my store from the moment they come into the lot all the way inside of the store. And then I want to have things inside of my store, especially on the sales side, that's going to make you want to stay in my store, because I'm a big believer, like Las Vegas is, the longer I can keep you in my store, the higher probability I'm going to sell you something or sell you more things. So here's what I want you to do. I'd ask you in the beginning to get a piece of paper out so you could do some evaluation on your things. So we're going to go over and take a look at the experience that people have in your store. So when you think about your customers right now, what kind of experience do they have? Unlike Las Vegas, where Las Vegas is attacking every sense you have, taste and hearing and sight and smell and touch. They're attacking every one of those. What do you attack on a customer when they're coming into your store? Are you getting all the senses involved? Are you getting some of them involved? Do you have some things that are actually turn-offs, so it drives people away? So here's what I want you to do. On a sheet of paper, I want you to write down sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. So just take a moment and write those down. Sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. All right, so if you've got those written down, now let's start off with these. I want you to rate yourself. And if you've got people that are with you, we've got a nice big group here, so if you've got somebody around you, I don't want you to copy off each other. I don't want somebody to see how you scored in each one of these, because I'm going to go back and ask you to do some comparatives if you have somebody else on this webinar with you. But I want you to go back and just on a scale of 1 to 5, with five being I'm outstanding, and with 1 being we are terrible at this, okay, I want you to rate your dealership both on the outside and on the inside on a scale of 1 to 5 relative to sight. How does it look? What are we doing to on the outside and the inside of our building to attack people's visual impression of us, so the sight part of it? On a scale of 1 to 5, I want you to think about the sound side of it. What are we doing on the sound side when people come in either to our display area or come into our store? What are we doing to attack the sound aspect of a person's experience? Then go to touch. On a scale of 1 to 5, what is there in our dealership that people can easily interact with? What is it can they do? Do you have signs up that tell people to stay off your equipment? Do you have signs up that tell people to keep your kids away from the equipment? And we laugh. I see that happen in dealerships. So from a touch standpoint, what are you doing in your dealership that would give people the ability to experience something about you through the sense of touch, smell? Okay, now this seems a little odd, but I tell people again, dealerships smell like dealerships. They smell like oil and tires and lubricants and boxes, cardboard boxes. So from a smell standpoint, on a scale of 1 to 5, does your dealership smell right? And I know this sounds a little odd, and it'll make sense as we go through it, but does it smell right? If I walked into your store, would my smell, my sense of smell, be assaulted by the smells that are there, or would it enhance my experience inside of your dealership? You go back to Las Vegas again. You know, Las Vegas in the casinos, everybody can smoke, but you don't smell it in the casinos. They work hard on making sure again that sense of smell is in there. And the last one, and again, I always laugh. My dealers think this is a lot, but it's taste. You know, what is there that you do in your dealership that will assault the taste buds of somebody and bring that complete experience back into your dealership? So on a scale of 1 to 5, sight 1 to 5, sound 1 to 5, touch 1 to 5, smell and taste, all of those 1 to 5. All right, now let's go back and just think about these for a second. Let's start with the sight standpoint of it. So when I pull into your dealership, right, what is it that I see? Do I see rags outside? Do I see styrofoam cups outside? Do I see junk around? Does it look messy, disorganized? Is the equipment that's outside, is it showcased? Are there some pieces that are set aside that's got everything on them, that they're polished, the wheels are all polished? Do you have some units outside of your dealership in your outside display area that when I walk up to, I'm pulled to those units? You have flags up outside. You have I had a person yesterday in one of our meetings we were talking about, he had invested in some of these big Christmas blow-up Santa Clauses and stuff like this, and he said it's amazing how many people came in and says, oh yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So he did something that was inexpensive, but it created a different sight appearance. Is the outside of your store clean and neat and painted? Or am I walking into a store that needs repair on the outside? That creates an experience or an image of who you are, what you do. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, boy, we need to work on this, or 5, just think about where you're at. And if you're at a 1 or a 2 on this, then my question is what could you do to just move it up 2 more points? What would happen if you could move the sight on the outside of the building up just a couple more points? Maybe it's fresh paint, right? Maybe it's cleaning the windows. Maybe it's just organizing your display area outside so that it looks like something that I want to come into. Then on the inside of your store, you have to look at it from the same perspective, right? If I walk into your dealership now, does it look like a dealership, or is it merchandised well? Do I have the showcasing of equipment inside of my dealership, right? Is it bright enough? From a sight standpoint, you know, your inside of your dealership should be lit at 700 looms or higher. 700 looms is the basis that we want. When you walk into your dealership, is there lots of light there? Is it bright? Does it look like daylight? Because if it's not, that's something that you want to be thinking about, adding that extra light in there, because retailers will tell you that more light makes people stay. It makes it look brighter. It makes it look more exciting. So that's the sight part of it. Now let's go to the sound side of it. Okay, what's it sound like inside of your store? What's it sound like on the outside? Is there any sound at all? For many of you, your shop is right next to your parts department, which is inside of your showroom. And what I hear are impact wrenches or technicians that are using words that I probably don't want my customers to hear. What are you doing for sound? Right? What are you doing for sound in there? This is the time of year where you should be playing Christmas songs, upbeat, high energy Christmas songs. Right? And I had a dealer the other day say, well, we get tired of Christmas songs. I don't care about whether you get tired of them or not. It's when customers come in, I want them to experience something. Are there sounds outside of your dealership? Right? When you go into Las Vegas, or my wife and I recently, my wife went out to buy a car here not too long ago, and we pulled into the dealership, and the outside display area was beautifully lit. It was gorgeous. The cars were perfect. And as we're walking inside of the dealership, there's Christmas songs that are being piped to the outside. You're almost getting in this experience from before you even walk in, you're starting to experience what that dealership is like. And then we walked on the inside, they've got a beautiful Christmas tree up, and they've got red and green helium balloons attached to the different cars. It's festive inside. The music is piped through the inside. You just walk in and you felt something. So sound is an important part of this buying experience. So again, I want you to be thinking about that on a scale of 1 to 5. On the outside, do you have anything out there that creates sound, this desire for me to come on in? People like that sound. And then once they come to the inside, do you have anything there? Again, yesterday we were talking with some dealers, and Jeff Blackton, who's one of my team members here, was just talking about how inexpensive today it is to go out and get Bluetooth speakers that look like stones that you can put outside of your dealership, and just through Bluetooth, right, run sounds outside, run music outside. There's Spotify is a streaming music service that you can get for about $30 a year for a premium service. You don't have any ads that run, right? And you have the ability to pick the type of music that you want to run outside there. But I want people to hear those sounds coming in. Let me go back to touch. When you think about your dealership, what is there in your dealership that would accentuate the touch part of it? People want to experience things. Not all people, but most people want to experience things. And when you think about touch, do you have displays where it's easy for people to get on equipment? I was at a dealership not too long ago, and I walked into the showroom, and they had everything so packed in there. I mean, it looked like a warehouse. Everything was so packed, and if you wanted to get on a piece of equipment, you couldn't, because everything was so close together. Or if you were able to get on it, you would almost stumble and fall to get on it because things are so close together. So you couldn't really experience the equipment there. Think about using a tablet as a part of that touch experience. Today, millennials and boomer twos, which is what I am, we're comfortable with technology. I tell my dealers, why not have a tablet set up by your displays on the inside? You can go online and get a tablet stand for retailing for about $30. Get a tablet. They're about $150 today. And on that tablet, have it set up there so if somebody walked up to your equipment or that machine, rather than get on it, they could go to the tablet and scroll through and learn about the specs and things like this. And most of your websites are already mobile enhanced, so that tablet would show up, and you want to have the links and stuff tied back to your website. So if you've got a particular piece of equipment there, have a little button on there that would take them to your website that's mobile enhanced, and people could experience that equipment from that perspective. So if you're busy with another customer, a person would walk over and they would start interacting with that piece of equipment just through a tablet. So think about the touch standpoint. Do you have signs set up that says, "Sit in my seat, open this hood up, do these things"? You need to encourage people to experience what's going on inside of your showroom. So think about the touch aspect on a scale of 1 to 5. How much touch experience do you have people that give people to have either inside or outside of your dealership. Let us go about smell. And dear Lord, smell. When you think about a dealership, there's a lot of harsh smells inside of most dealerships. Now, when we went into the dealership to buy the car, it smelled like spice and pumpkins and things like this. They had this candles burning inside of this dealership. They were putting off these incredible smells. It smelled like the holiday should smell. So I want you to think about yours. You know, if I walked into your dealership, what would I experience from a smell standpoint? Probably tires, fuel, oil, and that's not what most people want. We get used to it because we're in the dealerships all the time. I'm in shops all the time, so I get used to the smell of diesel and oil and tires and things like this. But most of your customers aren't, especially your rural lifestyle customers. They're people that don't go into the dealerships that often, and if they do go into a dealership like a car dealership, they have an expectation of what it should be like. So think about that. How could we enhance the smell? Some of you guys are already doing it. I know some of you guys do popcorn. Popcorn does a couple of things, right? You got the smell and taste aspect of that, but popcorn smells so well as long as you keep making it fresh. I've got dealers now that are baking half a dozen chocolate chip cookies all day long, and so they got fresh hot chocolate chip cookies out there for people to have, and the smell of that hot chocolate chip cookie just wafts through the dealership, and it smells so good, and it makes people feel like they're inviting to come in. So I want you to think of the smell standpoint. If it doesn't smell enticing, if it doesn't smell good, I know this sounds odd, but if it doesn't smell right, people will tend not to stay there as long. So what can you do to enhance the smell of the inside of your dealership? And I go back again, as Jeff was telling one of our dealers yesterday, Yankee candles are about 15 bucks. Go get some Yankee candles, put in there, and start burning them if you have nothing else that you want to do, and get that smell right in there. And the last one, and this always seems a little odd again to my dealers, is taste. You know, when you think about the experience that a customer is going to have inside of your dealership, what are you doing to assault the taste buds? Now, we talked about, again, with the popcorn. And if you're doing popcorn now, then you're getting the smell and the taste as long as you keep it fresh. But taste is an important part of it. You know, you want people to walk in and feel like they've come home. You want to make people come into your dealership and feel like this is a place that I want to come to myself, and I would encourage other people to come in here also. So when it comes to taste, I would think about that. You know, some of you guys do coffee. Coffee's great, right? But you got to keep making it fresh. I've got dealers right now this time of year are doing coffee and hot cocoa. Wonderful, great taste. Put some food alongside of that. Get them in there. And when we're talking about taste, coffee, and in the summertime, if you sell Yeti coolers, it's a great idea to have cold iced bottles of water there, but always have some food available that's fresh, that's exciting for people to do. What I want to do is have people come in, get a big hot cup of coffee, and get a cookie or some popcorn or whatever, and especially if I'm trying to sell them, I want them to be in there and eat and experience that as a part of my dealership. While we're talking about coffee, everybody do me a favor. Go out and invest in a dozen to 24 really nice coffee mugs. Most of your manufacturers will have this with their branding on the side of it. Get rid of those stupid 8-ounce styrofoam little crappy cups that look like you just got them out of a homeless shelter, right? That's not what you want. You know, when somebody walks in, you want to give them something that's substantial. And then the salespeople's job is every night, this is the salespeople's job, is to take those mugs, clean them, wash them, and get them back out on a nice little rack and put them out there. You want somebody with a nice big hot cup of coffee or cocoa in their hand, because if you got a little styrofoam cup, it gets cold quick. I don't want that coffee to get cold quick. The longer I keep you in there, the better off I am. You need that coffee. I'm going to sue you McDonald's kind of hot, so that when people come in there and get that nice big cup of coffee, again, they will stay for a while. So just as you think about yourself, rating yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 in each area, sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste, right? Be honest with yourself. And if you had other people that were a part of this too, get them involved with it and just say, how are we doing in these areas? And then what could we do, right, to just move up from, if I'm a 2 right now on sight, what would it take me to move to a 4? If I'm a 1 on sound, I have no sound at all, or the only sound that you hear is an impact wrench in our shop, what would it take to move from a 1 to a 3? So I tell my dealers, you don't have to be at a 5 right now. Your goal is to be at a 5. But ultimately, just what could you do inexpensively to move each one of these up by just a touch, 1 or 2 points, so that when the customer comes in, they're going to have this complete experience, which is what Las Vegas is trying to get them to do. And then the last one is do your people complement the experience or detract from it? When my wife was out buying a car, we already knew what manufacturer we were going to buy from. We do a lot of business with Honda. Honda does Honda does a lot of business with me, so we knew we were going to go to a Honda dealership, and there was a Honda dealership that's not too far from where we are. My wife went out. She found out what she wanted. She knew about what she wanted to pay. We went into this beautiful Honda dealership, and it was gorgeous. We walked in, and we went on a Sunday to look. We went on a Sunday because you don't have to interact with salespeople. She wanted to kind of look and get prices and stuff. She'd been online, basically knew what she wanted. But so we went into this dealership. This was on Monday night. It was about 6 o'clock at night in Kansas City. It was dark. We pulled in the dealership, and again, their lot was brightly lit. It looked like daylight outside, right? Kind of one of those Las Vegas things. There was sound coming out of the Christmas songs coming out. We go inside of the dealership, and we walk in there, and I mean, again, it's beautiful. It's bright, and there's the Christmas tree and the sounds and the smells. And all of a sudden, we met the sales guy. We were his up, right? And so he was the next guy to get the next couple to come in. And the problem with this guy is he was like the world's worst salesperson I've ever met in my life. I mean, he was just horrid. I mean, you walked up to him, and he had this kind of tie that was about halfway up, and it had some stains and stuff on it, and he had this kind of crumpled shirt, and he was just a buffoon. And so everything that the dealership did, the millions of dollars they spent to make this all look right, then they had a person that was their salesperson, right, that basically detracted from it. Now, we were going to buy from this dealership anyway. We were going to buy a Honda product because, again, I buy from people that buy from me. So there wasn't any doubt. We were like a lay down. We were walking in with cash in our hand, and all you had to do was come by and take it. But my wife had a horrible experience with this salesperson. So you got to be thinking about the same thing yourself. You spend all this money, you spend all this time and energy to create this experience, and one person, it could be a parts person, a service person, it could be a salesperson, one person can destroy it all in a second. So you have to ask yourself a question. Do my people complement the experience that I'm trying to create, or do they detract from it? Right? And it's so important to be thinking about that. You may go like, well, my people are what they are. You know, you're trying to create an experience for people when they come into your dealership. And your people are that last part, that last touch of that experience. And again, so it's a matter of that uniform, that look. Do you have as owners and managers the right people in there that add to or complement the experience that you're trying to create? So I want you to be thinking about that also. And it doesn't mean you should get rid of anybody, but think about even uniforms and clothing. We talked about this yesterday with a group, making sure that you have uniforms in there. Everybody should have this look. The shop is going to have a different look because of the environment they're working in. Parts counter is probably going to have a little bit different look. But I want my salespeople to look like pros, like people that I could give $40,000 to and be comfortable with. So think about even the uniforms and the look and the things like that. That's a part of that experience you're trying to create. As you looked at the building, then we have to go back and we have to look at by department and evaluate your department. So when you think about the sales process in the sales department, I tell people again, this is the time where we go back and we say, well, let's look at all the money that we spent in marketing last year to get leads coming in. Okay, so you spend all this money to get leads coming in, and then do you have any process for tracking them? I mean, it drives me nuts when dealerships we track the numbers in the service department, we track time, we track our parts sales, but when it comes to the whole goods side of the business, I find that most of my dealers don't do a good job of tracking leads and then holding salespeople accountable for actually following through those leads. So think about your sales process, right? What are you doing to keep track of those leads that are being generated in there? If you don't have a system in place, most of you have a business management software system you're using, and most of those systems have some sort of a CRM, a customer relation management component to it. If it doesn't, there's a couple. I would encourage you to take a look at a product called PipeDrive, because it has an open API, and in most of your software, it'll interface with most of your software with a little help from your software provider. But you want to be able to track those leads. I want to know what you're doing with those leads that we're spending money on getting in. Again, I'm going to tell you that most of you guys as owners, you don't do a good job of tracking that. You spend money to get them, but you don't track them. What level of activity do you hold your salespeople accountable to? So again, when it comes to sales, right, are you just letting things happen? Okay, well, this is just the way it is, Bob. It's dry, it's wet, it's hot, it's cold, it's an election year. Or are you as an owner or you as a sales manager holding your salespeople accountable to some level of activity? In the dealerships I consult with, I expect a salesperson to have at least 20 touches a day, every day as a salesperson. Now, if you're doing outside sales, you can't have 20. But if you're doing inside sales in the retail side of it, there's absolutely zero reason that a salesperson couldn't reach out and touch 20 people a day. If you're not touching 20 people a day, then your salespeople are screwing around and wasting time. There's no reason that you can't have an activity level of 20 a day. Every salesperson in your dealership, if you have dedicated salespeople, should have a sales funnel of about 250 to 300 customers in it that they are constantly working through to touch, to move forward in the selling process, and to do those types of things. So activity is an important part of it. And again, I would encourage you as an owner or a sales manager, if your salespeople aren't held accountable for at least 20 touches a day, that would be phone calls, emails coming in, face-to-face meetings with people that are walking in. And I tell people, if you only have 10 or 15 of those, then you get on the phone and you make a call and you reach out and you touch somebody that's already in your file. As I tell salespeople, the phone not only rings in, but interesting enough, you can also call out on it. There should never be a time that a salesperson is sitting there pretending like they're doing research on the internet. That is the lazy way for salespeople to act like they're busy. So hold your salespeople accountable to activity. 20 touches a day. There's no salesperson out there that can't make 20 touches a day at some point. If your salespeople aren't doing it, then that's something that you need to be working on because it's going to increase your sales. The reality of it is the more sales activity you have, the more sales that happen. You know, salespeople, you can either wait to have something happen or you can make something happen. Professional salespeople make things happen. They do it through that activity. And then what's your follow-up process after a sale is made? You know, do you have something in place to do that? Evaluate that. You know, well, we call some of the people up, Bob. You should call everybody up after a sale's made. You should do it maybe 3 days out or 7 days out with a week. Just, hey, just want to touch base. How are things going? And just as importantly is making a follow-up after a sale is lost. So if I'm talking to you about a tractor, a Yanmar tractor, and then you choose to go buy it from somebody else as a salesperson, right? I should call you up and say, guys, you know, I appreciate the fact you came in, and I understand that you bought your tractor from another dealership, but help me understand what could we have done better? What could we have done that would have maybe make this sale happen for us? That information is vitally important to you as a sales team. Most salespeople don't follow up at, oh, well, it was just a customer, you know, we didn't get along with them or we didn't have the right price. They come up with 1,000 excuses. So you should have a follow-up process after a sale is made, and just as importantly, you should have and require your salespeople to follow up with the customer that didn't buy from you to find out why they didn't buy from you, so you, as a principal or as a sales manager, can make adjustments and changes so that the next time that won't happen to you again. So what's your follow-up process? Again, most people don't have one, and I would encourage you to do it. And I go back again to something as simple as your follow-up process should include maybe just something as simple as a handwritten thank you note. You know, most of the salespeople I train in my sales boot camp, that's what they do. They'll send out 5 thank you notes a day. They'll thank you for buying from them, and if you didn't buy from them, they send you a thank you note and say, you know what, I really appreciate you coming in. It's unfortunate that we couldn't make this sale happen, but if you ever need anything again, we're here to help you. There's nothing better in sales than guilt. And if I send you a thank you note, even though you didn't buy from me, you feel guilty, and you will, because of this psychological law called the law of reciprocity, you will have a need to get that monkey off your back, and you will tend to, again, tell somebody else to come in and see us. So what's your follow-up process after a sale is made, and then what's your follow-up process if a sale is not made, if it's lost? What are you going to do about that? And if you have a customer relation management component to your business management software, a CRM, that can all be built into that, so you can do your campaigns and things like that too. So think about your sales process. You know, what could you do in 2017 to enhance your sales process to get more sales? Number one thing to me is always you got to get your salespeople doing more activity. Then you got to evaluate your parts department. You know, I hear this all the time. Oh, Bob, we're losing sales to the internet. Well, you're losing sales to the internet because you don't have the parts that people need when they come in. So then you need to figure out, okay, well, why am I losing sales to the internet, or why am I losing sales to competitor? And most of the time, it doesn't have anything to do with your pricing. It has the fact that you don't have it, and you say, well, Bob, I can get it in a day, or I can get it in 2 days. I don't want to wait a day or 2 days. I'm at a point anymore where I can get anything online in 2 days, right? You should have it in stock. And so you have to evaluate probably the most important measurement in your parts department relative to a customer's experience is your fill rate out of stocking inventory. And it needs to be in that 85-ish range, 80, 85, 90 range on parts that are on equipment that you sell that are either wear or service parts. If you're selling equipment and it has a wear or a service part on it, you should have 85 to 90% of the time, you should have those parts in stock. Now, if you're servicing things that you don't sell, I don't expect it to be that high. But if you're handling a product, you're handling a line, and it has a wear part or a service part on it, there is zero excuse for you not having that part in stock. And I have people say, well, we didn't know it needed that part, Bob. It's a new model that this company introduced, and we didn't know it needed that filter. We thought the filter was the same. Well, shame on you. You, when you bring a new product in, a new piece of equipment in as a parts manager or a service manager, first thing that parts and service managers do is they get together, they look at everything that's new models, and they look at the service elements of it, the filters, hydro filter, air filter, fuel filters, oil filters. They look at those things to determine, is it different than the old model? In many cases it will be. There's nothing more embarrassing to me for a dealership to have a customer come in to get a filter for a new piece of equipment and you don't have it, because then the parts manager says, well, we haven't had any demand for it yet, Bob. Are you kidding me? Your job is to make sure that you got the parts that they need to do that. You want people to leave you, don't have a good fill rate out of stocking inventory. It's not the internet's fault. It's not your competitor's fault. Your job as a service or a parts manager to make sure that you got that there. And again, I would encourage you to do it, and your software will tell you what that number is. So make sure you got that in place. And then, are you maximizing your margins on your captive parts? You know, one of the things you have to understand is there's a lot of equipment that you guys sell out there where only you or another dealer like you will actually have the parts for it. Those are the stuff that you want to maximize your margins on. Can you get another 1 or 2% on that part that they can only get from you or another dealer that sells what you sell? Most people, if you're 2 or 3% higher on a part, and I know all the parts people say, oh, people will walk away for $5. Yeah, there's a few people that do it, but most people, if you got a part and it's 2 or 3% higher in margin or a little bit more expensive than somebody else, most people aren't going to walk away for $5 or $10. They just won't do it. I know you say they will, but I've been doing this 30 years. They won't do it. 15% will, 85% won't. Okay, so make sure that you're maximizing your margins on captive parts. Our job in the parts department, our job in business is to produce revenue. We talked about that in the very beginning. I want good revenue coming in, right? And I want freedom that's associated with that. So you go back and you look at your margins on your captive parts and you move them up if you can, right? That's part of what you're trying to do in there. So evaluate your parts department relative to margin on captive parts. The other thing I'm trying to get parts department to do today is make sure that you got an option for customers to look up their own parts. I was at a dealership here a few months back, and we were talking about this with the parts manager, and he goes, people aren't going to come in here and look up their own parts. People can't look up their own parts. And this was after about 30 minutes earlier, him telling me that everybody's going on the internet to look up parts. So he's telling me that people are going on the internet to look up parts, yet he's telling me that people won't look up parts. Okay, pick one. It can't be both of them. I say people will look up parts, right? If your parts counter, if you got 2 parts people at your parts counter and there's 2 people standing in line waiting to be waited on, and you've got a computer terminal over there with a sign that says look up your own parts, trust me, people will walk over to that and look up their own parts. And if you've got your business management software attached to everything there, they can look up their own parts, create a pick list, it'll come to you, and then all you've got to do is go pull the parts for them, or have the parts that are common parts out front in high-density parts cabinets, like the listers or the Vidmars, so they can literally go over and pull the parts out and bring them up and just have you check them out. Get a parts lookup area in your parts department. Have a sign that says look up your parts here. I tell people it's like adding another parts person to your parts counter, and people will do it. I go back, and if I go into a Lowe's or a Home Depot, I normally, if I've got things in my hand and there's a cashier open, I will always walk up to the cashier. But I'm telling you, if I got things in my hand, right, that are pretty easy for me, and they got the SKUs on them and everything like that, if I see there's 4 or 5 people in line, both Lowe's and Home Depot have the self-checkout area, I'll go over there and check myself out. I don't enjoy doing it. It's kind of a pain, but it's still better than me waiting in line. So if you think people won't do it, all you need to do is go to some retail stores today and see how many people go through self-checkout grocery lines and how many people go through self-checkout lines at your Home Depot, your Lowe's, your mass merchandisers, and things like that. So I'm just going to encourage you again, this is a perfect time to be thinking about this, because typically it's a little slower in parts. Think about setting up a place where people can look up their own parts. It's something that will, number one, it'll add a lot of turns. You'll move people through the counter faster. And again, it's almost like adding a parts person to your parts department for free. And then the last thing on the parts one is just take a look at your showroom displays, your high-density parts displays that are part of your showroom, and ask yourself the question, are they producing the profit that they should be producing? Anything that sits on a showroom floor needs to be generating you roughly $400 of gross profit per square foot per year. You got displays that your parts department have out there. It's got paint on them. It's got junk like that on that you don't sell much of. That's not the stuff you should have on those displays. Your displays are set up out there to give people a chance to do those quick pick, those impulse kind of items out there. They should be neat. They should be clean. They should be fronted and faced, right? And you just have to measure it and you say, look, I've got this 4-foot by 4-foot display that's setting out here that's sucking up 16 square foot of space. Is this display generating me $5,000 of gross profit a year? And if it's not, then fix it, change it, move things around so that it's doing that. I'm a big fan of high-density parts displays out in front of the parts counter. And I tell you again, you've got to be looking at those things and saying, and ask that question. Think about this. Every square foot of space on that showroom needs to be producing me $400 of gross profit per year. Measure it out. Look at the money that display is producing. And if it ain't producing you that, you don't get rid of the display. Find something else to put on it that will produce that. Grocery stores, merchandisers do this all the time. They're constantly moving that inventory around to find that right mix, and then take advantage of those end caps. This is the time of year where you should be getting your end caps ready for the spring. So you got those seasonal items on it, those spring type items that should be on those end caps. We don't wait till spring gets here. We start setting our displays right now. This time of year, you should start setting your displays up for the spring season. So go back and evaluate your parts department and look at what those displays are producing for you as a part of it. And then finally, as we get into service, just evaluate service. The first thing I always ask people, what's your recovery rate? All right, out of the hours that you're paying for, how many hours are you getting a build time out of that? And are you recovering at least at 85% of the labor you're buying? And if you're not, you got to fix that. And that, again, is a management issue. It's not a technician issue. You know, when everybody says, well, our techs aren't producing, it's not because of your technicians. Your manager's job is to make sure that you're doing your standard labor rate pricing and your flat rating as a part of everything that you do. They're building enough time in. They're getting the equipment triaged so the guys know what they're doing. It's clean coming into the guys. So all the technicians are doing in your service bay all day long is turning wrenches. And if you're not recovering at 85%, you can blame it on your technicians. It's a management issue. You don't have good processes in place to drive your service department, and you're not making really good money in your shop until you're at least at 85% recovery. So I'm going to ask you again, go back and evaluate your service department. Are you recovering at least 85% of the labor you're buying? So that means that about 6.5 to 6.8 hours out of an 8-hour day, every technician should be producing billable time. You can get better than that, but 85% is the minimum I would allow a service manager to run my shop at. Because if not, then that service department is just costing you money. So evaluate your service department relative to the recovery rate. That's the key indicator to let me know if that manager's got good processes in place. And if we're not at 85%, then the manager needs to go back and look at their processes. How can I make that better? That's a part of what their job is. And then the next one is are you calling customers, or are customers calling you about the status of their jobs? This also tells me a lot about your process. When people come in and say, Scott, all I do is I get customers calling me to follow up on their job, and I go, well, are you calling them? Well, no, I don't have time, right? Or they just dropped it off 3 days ago and they're already calling me about it. I said, well, then you've got to have and do a better job of communicating with your customers, right? If you're spending all your time as a manager answering customer calls coming in, then there's something wrong again with your process. And our process is we call the customers within 24 hours after the equipment's got to our dealerships. Okay, so I'm starting with the customer call, and I'm in front of those calls. There's nothing more irritating for a customer than not to be updated on the status. And I have guys go, yeah, well, we'll call you when it's done. That's not what they want to hear. That's not what happens at the car dealership. That's not what happens at the truck dealership. They are constantly being updated on the status. And you do it through emails. You don't have to make a phone call. Do it through emails and do it through text messages. Right? If you're getting the right information in the service department and you're getting good contact information, email addresses and cell phone numbers, right? You can sit there and do a mass email or a mass text in most of your business management software and say, hey, we looked at your equipment. It'll be about 2 days or 3 days or whatever, and you can send a text out so you are touching those people on a more regular basis. So evaluate that. Are you calling customers, or are customers calling you about the status of your job? If you got a lot of customers calling you all the time, your processes are broke. This is the time of year. Now's the time when it's slow to go back and make those adjustments in your processes. And then finally, you have an opportunity to move your labor rate up without impacting your labor sales. This is the time of year when I'm sitting here saying, okay, well, I'm at $85 an hour now, or I'm at $90 an hour, right? Can I move that up? Could I tweak that up another $1 or $2 per hour without it having me impact my potential sales? You think about, well, it's only a couple of bucks. Well, if you got 3 technicians in your shop, that's 6,000 billable hours that you should be producing out of those technicians. If you add another $3 to your posted labor rate, Or let's just say you add $2 to it. That's 6,000 hours times $2. That's $12,000 of net profit you just created in your service department by doing nothing more than tweaking your labor rate up $2 an hour. Keep in mind, every service tech has the ability to produce 2,000 billable hours if your service department's doing standard labor rate or flat rating as a part of what they're doing out there. So think about that again. Can you tweak that up a little bit? Just move it up a little bit without it impacting your labor sales. All right. So those are some things that you're looking at as you go into this slow season. And again, as we get done and when you get the information back, we'll have some sheets that you can go through that'll come from my office to let you go through and kind of do the evaluations again. And just to make sure with your team, are there these little things we can do and tweak? Now's the time of year where we're going to step back, we're going to look at our game film from 2016 and make some decisions on what we're going to do, change, adjust, or improve as we go into 2017 to have a super profitable and a beneficial year for our dealership. So let's go ahead, Michael, and let's open it up for questions.
That's great. We did. We got a couple submitted here, and we've got a few minutes left, so we'll start running through these. During the off season, what kind of approach to marketing and advertising should be used? Should we spend more? Should we spend less? Should we do direct or general?
I would say again, from my perspective, you know, the marketing that's working for the dealerships that we're working with now really has more to do with your social media, Facebook, making sure that your website is up and going. But I would be driving the bulk of my marketing through Facebook, through social media, and things like this. And again, so when you think about marketing, I don't want to spend a lot of money marketing right now for spring. We're just a little too far out. But typically, marketing is a lot like hunting. And I use this as an analogy. When I grew up on a farm, I hunted birds, quail and pheasant and things like this. And so when you think about marketing, it's like trying to shoot a bird. You don't want to shoot at the bird. You want to shoot in front of the bird so the bird runs into your shot. And marketing's the same way. So probably in about 30 days, I would start really moving my marketing campaign up. So when I get into the mid part of January, first part of February, I'm already out there about 30 to 45 days ahead of the season, so that when people are ready to take advantage of the season, I'm the person that they're going to be thinking of. So that's how I would do it, Michael.
Very good. Here's an interesting one. How do you get customers to bring in their products before they put it in the shed for the winter?
Well, again, a lot of that's just creating some packages for them to do it. I have a lot of dealers that I work with that have winter service specials and things, and they'll run them in the fall. The biggest challenge, especially if it's an outdoor power equipment, so you get in your zero turns, is making sure that you're not putting regular fuel in it, that you're buying and you're putting in the more expensive fuels that are a little higher octane, so that when you do service it and they put it in their shed for the winter, we know that in March when they go to start it, it's going to start. But again, most of my dealers that we work with, Michael, have already got out their preseason specials. They're going to be having equipment come in December here before they put it up and doing it. And if you haven't done that in the past, you just have to start doing it. And as a matter of fact, if you let us know, we've got some samples from dealerships that we work with of cards. So just get with Michael or get with us, and we can send out some samples of that for you. But again, you just start with it. You might send out, and don't send out 10,000 pieces. You'll take about 500 people that you've done business with over the last 5 or 6 years, so that their equipment's relatively new, and send 500 cards out, and then pick up the telephone at the parts counter and just call the customers you sent cards out to. So just keep in mind, you're not going to send out 500 at one time. You're going to send out about 25 a day every day. So after about 3 days, then the people at the parts counter will pick up the phone and say, hey, Bob, I just wanted to touch base, see if you got our preseason service special card, and see if you had any questions. And again, and that way every day that we're making about 25 calls. If you send all 500 out at once, Michael, there's no way you can call 500 people, and by the time you get to the 500th one, it's going to be about a month now. So stage them out, and then again, the key is not sending out tons of them. As you and I both know, Michael, from a marketing standpoint, it's the repetition. It's the seeing the card a second time and a third time. That's when it starts to have the impact. So I would pick 500 people out. I would send them out a card. I would follow up with a phone call. I would send out that same group, another 500. I would be in front of them about 3 times. So I'm sending out 1,500 pieces, but only to 500 potential customers. And I think you'll find that you'll have some good business coming into your dealership during this slow time.
Great. I actually I was leaving for lunch here the other day. We're in Southeast Wisconsin. I heard an interesting promo for a local power center that was doing storage and service packages over the winter. Do you hear a lot of dealerships doing things like that?
Yeah, if they have the physical space for it. I've got several dealerships where the owners also own farms and they have big equipment sheds that they don't use much anymore, and they will literally do that, Michael. So they'll do the winter service on it, then they'll store the unit for the winter for the customer. And they charge them some sort of nominal fee. They really make their money on the service as a part of it. So they don't discount the service in, but they include storage over the winter as a part of it, just because they have the physical facility to do it. So if you've got the ability to do it, I think it's a great idea. It's not for everybody because some of my dealers that we work with, they just don't have that kind of space to do it with. But it does work well for the dealers that I have do it, and customers really do take advantage of it.
Right. All right, we've got time for one more here. Someone heard recently that for every negative customer event, it takes 15 exceptional events to recover from that. Would you agree with that? Disagree with that?
I would say it probably used to. So back in the days before we had the ability to make comments online, I would say, one bad customer will tell. The old rule was they'll tell 10 or 15 other people, and one good customer probably won't tell anybody. But today, where people put reviews up and things like that online, it's actually changed that, and it's made it a little bit easier because before, Michael, I didn't have the ability to actually respond to that person that made the negative comment. Today, if they do it online, I have the ability to actually respond to that in a positive way. And so when people look at a negative review, as long as you as a manager or as an owner come back with a positive, say, you know what, gosh, Michael, I really apologize that you had a bad experience in our dealership. Our goal is to make every customer happy, and apparently we didn't do that for you. And anything we could do to make that happen, we sure would, because our ultimate goal here is to create an environment where people like you feel comfortable coming in. So if you don't respond to a negative one, then it just stays out there on its own. So I tell all of my owners, when you get a negative response, respond to it, because everybody today knows when people put online really harsh reviews, there are just some angry people out there that are crazy. So most people today, when they see it, as long as there's been a positive response back from the dealership, Michael, it'll take a lot of the sting out of that negative.
Well, I think that's an important point too. That if you're going to take the time to have social media, Facebook, Twitter, or whatnot, uh, you got to respond if somebody does
Absolutely.
do something.
Yeah,
Um,
and let them know you're all about taking care of customers. Don't I had a person the other day that I saw his review, Michael, and he went on the attack on this person. Don't attack the person for giving a
no,
negative one. Just let everybody know how important it is for you, that good customer service is so important to our dealership, and I really apologize you had a bad experience. That'll take away the sting of that negative one. But don't attack the person that gave you that response.
right. Well, I want to be conscious of everybody's time here. We've got a couple more questions that have come in, but we'll send those back with Bob, and we'll wrap up for today. As I mentioned earlier, today's presentation and audio are going to be made available on rurallifestyledealer.com in the event that you'd like to go back and review it. So keep an eye on your email for the handout from Bob, and look to Rural Lifestyle Dealer's daily updates for more information about the availability of the webinar playback. On behalf of Bob and the staff here at Rural Lifestyle Dealer, as well as the folks at Yanmar, thanks very much for joining us today. When you leave, a short survey will pop up. Let us know what you think, and let us know if there are any topics that you would like to see covered in the future. Thanks again, and thanks, Bob, for your time.
Thanks, Michael. Merry Christmas.
Have a great Christmas, everybody.